That night, Demeter again took charge of baby Demophoon. She fed him more ambrosia and laid him down to sleep in the fire. In the morning, she was pleased to see that he was immortalizing nicely. One more night ought to do it, she decided. When she gave the child back to the queen at breakfast, Matrania wasn't so thrilled. Her boy suddenly looked like a 4-month-old rather than a newborn. She wondered what kind of magic Demeter was using, and whether it had passed the safety test for babies. Maybe the old lady was slipping some kind of growth hormone into Demophoon's milk. In a few more days, the kid might have 6-pack abs and hairy armpits. Still, the queen was too polite to yell at her guest or throw accusations with no proof. She kept her doubts to herself. Secretly, she hoped the riders would come back today, and the old lady would be on her way. Unfortunately, the riders did not return. "I'm sure they'll be back in the morning," Triptolemus promised. "Then we should have more information." Demeter agreed to stay one more night. This time, when dinner was finished, she took the baby from the queen without even asking, just assuming it was okay. Matrania's heart hammered in her ribcage. She watched Demeter carry Demophoon back to her guest room, and the queen tried to convince herself that everything was fine. The old lady was harmless. She would not return her newborn son into a roid-raging monster overnight. But the queen couldn't sleep. She worried that she was going to miss her baby's entire childhood. She'd wake up in the morning and see this big, bulky 3-year-old with facial hair running towards her, shouting in a deep voice, "Hey, Mom, wake up!" Finally, Matrania couldn't stand it anymore. She crept down the hall to Demeter's room to check on the baby. The bedroom door was open just a crack. Firelight glowed in the sill. Matrania heard the old woman singing a lullaby inside, but the baby wasn't making a sound. Hopefully that was good. He was sleeping peacefully. But what if he was in danger? Without knocking, she opened the door, then screamed at the top of her lungs. The old lady was sitting calmly in a rocking chair, watching the baby Demophoon burn in the fire. Matrania charged to the fireplace. She snatched the baby out of the flames, heedless of how much it burned her hands and arms. The baby started wailing, unhappy about waking up from a nice warm nap. Matrania wheeled on Demeter, ready to chew her face off. But the old lady yelled first. "What are you thinking?" Demeter shouted, rising from her chair with her fists clenched. "Why did you do that? You ruined everything!" Matrania was stunned speechless. Meanwhile, Prince Triptolemus and several guards stumbled into the room to investigate the screaming. "What's wrong?" Triptolemus demanded. "Arrest this woman!" Matrania shrieked, clutching her baby in her blistered arms. "She tried to kill Demophoon. He was burning in the fireplace." The guards surged forward, but Triptolemus yelled, "Wait!" The guards hesitated. Triptolemus frowned at his mother, then at the old woman. He was smart enough to realize that something wasn't right here. The baby was crying, but otherwise he seemed fine. He didn't look burned. The blanket wasn't even singed. The old woman looked more exasperated than guilty or scared. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked their guest. "The meaning," growled Demeter, "is that your mother just ruined things for the baby." The old woman began to glow. Her disguise burned away, and she stood before them as a golden-haired goddess, her robe shimmering with green light, her scythe sword glinting at her side. The guards dropped their weapons and retreated. Maybe they'd heard the story of Eric. The queen gasped. As a pious woman, she knew how to spot her gods. "Demeter?" "Yes," said the goddess. "I was trying to do you a favor, you silly woman. A few more hours in the fire and your baby boy would have been immortal. He would have grown into a fine young god and brought you eternal honor. Now you've ruined the magic. He will simply be human. A great hero, yes, strong and tall, but doomed to a mortal life. He will only be Demophoon, when he could have been Foolifoon. Foon the Great." Matrania gulped. She wasn't sure if she would apologize or thank the goddess or what. She was so relieved to have her baby back safely, unburned and without hairy armpits, that she didn't really care whether he was immortal. A great hero sounded good enough for her. Still, she didn't think she'd say that to the goddess. I should have trusted you," Matrania murmured. "Please, great Demeter, punish me for my lack of faith, but do not harm my family."